You know what? If you ever loved your mother, we wouldn't be going through this stuff that we are in this world. Grab one of them pre rolls. I found one. Found two today. Because there's good hearted people that just care for people. A few dollars, a five spot, you know, goes to somebody's heart. I don't care who you are when you're in need. You need your clothes washed. You need to wash out the toxic negative energy that's building up inside of you because the world has presented that to you today. You flood yourself with watching the news, and there's three killings at a grocery store and a 3 minute long clip of it, and you honestly you think the guy's mad or insane. No, he was just trying not to get caught. Every time with these killings that happen in America, they're just trying not to get caught. There's, police on site. They don't give the guy, you know, a good talking to and to say, we don't want to kill you. You don't hear that part where a cop says, we don't want to kill you. But back to men, somewhere, we have lost the love for our mother, especially the rich ones. I see Elon with his mom all the time. I don't see Donald Trump with a picture of his mom. I don't see Mark or, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg with their mom. If you ever loved your mom, you would always say, I love you, mom. Still to this day. You don't forget about the woman that brought you into this world. You don't. You can't. Yes, I'm trying not to cry because I, you know, I may have feuds with my mom or problems with her sometimes, but I don't stop loving her. You know, my father too. I don't. They raised a good-hearted son, and it is tiring and there's negative stuff in this world that you can't do anything about. There is sadness that comes into your life that the thought of them dying or the thought of something happening that just takes over your brain. Beware of sadness. Thank you so much for the men that care, like George Harrison, the Fab Four, all the Beatles. Somewhere along the line, they cared for their moms. When you don't have one, people generally care a lot more when they don't have their parents. That's my, view of it, but there's just people that don't give a rat's behind about anybody, and that's the thing that self-centeredness needs to stop with Americans. Stop picking yourself before every other uh, god believing bleeding human being here on earth. Ladies, men, and all included. We need to always treasure the ones that are in our own country, because they're the ones that are going to be taking you out. They're the ones that are going to deal with your dead body when you're dead. Remember that. You got two things that are always going to be a factor. You can't take anything with you, and the people that surround you are going to take care of your body and leave a memory of who you really were when you were alive. I got sometimes, low energy dealing with people. I'm an introvert sometimes, and I'm very shy when you know, I meet people. So sometimes, a cigarette, sometimes, just a good thought always gets me, talking with people, that I don't know, strangers, bus stop, fellow bus stop, writers, people on the street, just, it took a lot for me to ask for a few dollars from someone, and I needed it. I didn't have nothing, and it took a little while for somebody to give me a buck, you know, and I had to come up with all these creative ways of asking. 'Cause I have dignity. I didn't know how to ask somebody for help. I had to work since I was a little lad. My parents instilled a hard-working mentality. They didn't really tell me how hard work was really going to be, but you know, my mentality is I got to work to survive. And when you're American, and that's Americans' trait, is we feel like we have to work to earn our pay. Definitely when you're poor. You know, when you're rich, you just feel like everything's inherited to you, everything is given to you. When you're poor, you know, you look at things differently. You look at like, man, I had to do so much work when I was on the bottom, when I didn't have nothing, and it brings you to tears. You know, talking about your family, talking about life in general. So always, love your mother. And I know for a fact that we wouldn't be into these kind of situations if we just gave a little bit more attention to our mothers, gave it a little bit more attention to other people, because people do need help. It's not, it is a mental kind of thing, but it's really because you're not a giver. That's because the mentality of men are not givers, they're takers. And a woman, she gives everything, her body to a man. You know, I don't know if the book really says that. You know, I don't know if the Bible says a woman gives up everything for a man. She can get sick, she could die, because she just wants the love of a man. She wants the love of somebody. I can understand that. You know, that didn't come from my mom. It's just, I'm a thinker. What's wrong with being a deep thinker nowadays? Spending a little less money and thinking about some issues that, drive you crazy, like your parents sometimes. And, you know, I don't know, you know, stop thinking about money so much, and think about the reasons why we're actually here on the planet. What brought us to this, you know, step stool of life, and we're trying to reach this ladder. We're trying to get on this ladder to heaven, because it really matters what your country thinks of you. 'Cause they're the ones that are going to be burying you, doing something with your body. And another one, you can't take none of your possessions with you. So why are y'all so greedy, rich people? Why are y'all so greedy?